Hey everybody. Welcome to First Mondays. We'd like to get this show on the road. I know everybody's been full of anticipation for this. My name is Christine Sidaway and I teach geology here at CC. Yep. In addition, I serve as the chair of the college's academic events committee that organizes the First Mondays program together with students of the Blue Key Honor Society. Want to thank our Blue Key co-organizers for all the development of the great program that you saw shown on the screen. The calendar is completely full with a great program ahead of us this year. Today's event will entail an oral presentation with some film clips, followed by some audience Q&A, and there are mics in the aisles. Just so anyone who comes to ask a question knows, the program is being live streamed, so you will go directly to the internet with your incisive question. This evening, we're happy to provide for the first time a screening of Real Rock Film Tour exclusively for a CC audience right here in Armstrong Theater, free of charge. Yeah. Now, continuing on with introductions, it is a great privilege, and I will tell you, an indescribable pleasure to introduce these two individuals, Peter Mortimer and Josh Lowell, who will present the First Monday program today. In part, this is because geologists, such as myself and others of the CC geology program, feel a certain kinship with climbers, because we all practice our crafts in similar locations, and certainly it's an international endeavor around the world. This kinship, under the circumstances, is even more closely felt this time because Josh and Pete are graduates of the CC geology program in the 1990s. And just as a little bit of a jolt of realization, I think, on all our parts last evening when we got together. We shared an amount of nostalgia because Pete and Josh were among the very first advisees, and both of them worked in the geology department when I was in my very first months and years at Colorado College. So it was something of a start to look each other in the face directly, realize that almost 20 years has passed, and first have the question, what has happened? How has this happened? But then secondly realize, hey, we got some catching up to do. We're just picking up where we left off a couple of decades ago. In a certain way, Josh comes from a film family, possibly appropriate to his current career. His father engineered the very innovative Lowell film lighting system that introduced lightweight portable equipment and broadened the array of settings that could be used for film. Now, as far as Pete's history with film, he chose as one of his final courses at CC a film class long before the creation of the film and new media department at CC that now exists and is heavily subscribed. He went on to work at the New York Film Academy, immersing in fundamentals of the trade before going to the School of Cinematic Arts at the University of Southern California, a very acclaimed program. These two have received accolades and awards at film festivals in at least 12 countries around the world, including the Banff and Telluride Mountain Film Festivals, the Trento Film Festival in Italy, and the Kendall Mountain Film Fest in England. They've even received a Sports Emmy for outstanding camera work on one of their joint ventures. But even more than these achievements, we sought to host Josh and Pete for First Mondays because they exemplify traits that are shared in some form throughout the CC community of students, faculty, staff, and alumni. Some of these are creativity, imagination, and self-determination that is closely balanced with collaborative efforts. Their work provides examples of artistic cinematography and technical achievement that is astonishing in its execution in outdoor environments that would pose insurmountable challenges to other filmmakers. And also, their work shows a highly personal commitment to a film narrative that carries an impact for audiences from all realms of experience, as you'll see a bit in the film clips today. And their work shows an intensity of purpose and staying power that I would like to think was possibly instilled and became deeply seated during their experience with immersive block plan learning at CC. Now, this introduction, I'd like to conclude with just a bit of a celebration with some of the contemporary institutions, if I can have the slides, Marco, and historical foundations for outdoor pursuits at CC. Some of you may know that CC made the pages of Outdoor magazine just last fall with this historic photo of members of the Outdoor Recreation Committee that has had various names throughout its history. Next one. Next slide. The development of the Outdoor Recreation Department with the growth in staff and types of programs and training that are offered are just exceptional. Next one. The Ritt Kellogg Fund affords extraordinary opportunities for CC students to get out on ambitious challenges of their own in the outdoors that may lead to interesting future life achievements and careers. Next one. The Alpine Journal is nearing its first decade of publication. Next one. And going back a little bit further in history, these publications and online presence are building upon some famed works from Colorado College faculty and staff, including a librarian, an English professor. See, it's not only geologists and climbers who participate. And then stepping back a little bit farther, an individual, next slide, who introduced sophisticated, at the time, Swiss mountaineering techniques in Colorado that led to a great expansion of activity in the mountains. So remembering a bit of that Colorado College history, I'm happy to invite Josh and Pete to take the floor. Enjoy the program, everybody.
Thank you, Christine. Thanks to the CC Geology Department and everyone involved with bringing us here for First Monday. It's great to be here with you guys. I'm Josh. This is Pete. We're here to talk about the Real Rock Film Tour, which we created together 8 years ago. It's what we do, it's what we know, it's what we love, and we're really excited to be here to talk with you guys about it. You're the perfect group for us to share this with. So for those who may not be familiar with Real Rock, I think we'll just start right off the bat by playing the trailer for this year's tour. This gives some highlights of the films that are featured this year, and as Christine mentioned, tonight there'll be a screening right here at, is it 7 o'clock? So come on back and watch the full films, but this will give you a little taste of what we actually do before we start blabbing on about it.
It's hard and it's dangerous, but it's really simple. You have this mountain and you just want to go up there. He's like Mr. Miyagi.
British front I can't.
You need to have balls.
Then I'm on from stage.
Really do stay focused when things get a bit spicy.
The danger itself is interesting. Am I risking my life now? talking about early 70s?
We were in Utopia.
The hub of world rock climbing was Yosemite.
We were basically the kings of Utopia.
Yeah, dude. Stone masters. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, climbing. Long-haired bums, cooking drumming.
There's only one Everest. Holy stack, I'm total badass. This Everest climb is the crowning achievement, going big.
But Everest is Everest.
Millions of dollars flowing to the place.
People knows to ask, I mean, where did you think you were? There's tensions at high altitude. That's what sparks the conflict.
This is not good.
This is a different story now.
I feel dirty and greasy and I smell bad and my face hurts, but I'm gonna go climb again, and that's the only thing that matters.
Cool, thanks so much for coming out. So first of all, thanks to the CC Geology Department for having us, and for Christine Sidaway for inviting us. And thanks for coming. This is a huge honor for Josh and I to be here and to have the chance to share these stories with you. So as Josh said, we started the Real Rock film tour 8 years ago. So each year, he and I and a team of filmmakers are going out and we're trying to make the most exciting films possible, tell the big stories. And Real Rock is the platform that launches these films. So it goes to 450 cities now around the world each fall, and then including our show here tonight. And then after the tour, in December, we sell the films on DVD, we sell them on digital download. And then we've just launched the Real Rock TV series, which it plays in, I think, 4 different continents now across the world. So Josh and I, we started out sort of one-man shops. We're the cinematographers, the editors. We also do the producing, the fundraising. We work with about 10 to 15 different filmmakers and specialists in their field to make these productions. And I think we feel really lucky, and I think what we want to share is that we have sort of found this weird path to combine our passion for climbing. We're both lifelong climbers, and our passion for doing creative endeavors and business into one thing. And I think we just want to share our journey from when we left to CC to where we are now, and as it continues, and some of the stumbles and the lessons we've learned along the way, and hopefully there's something, I'm sure a lot of you guys are thinking about what your next steps are and stuff as you venture out of college. So Josh is going to start with a little background.
So the origin story. Pete and I met here at CC about 20 years ago, which is hard to believe. We climbed together a little bit. We were both geo majors. I graduated in '94, and I spent a year working as a paraprof in the geology department. I worked closely with Christine and also with Eric Leonard, who's here, Paul Myro, and Jeff Noblet, who are still in the department. It was a great experience. Normally, the paraprof year is kind of a transition year before going to grad school. But for myself, by the end of that year, I was just so consumed by this need to climb that I decided to take a year off and be a climbing bum and see where it led me. And I remember when I told the professors in the department that I was going to do that, they cited this cautionary tale of another former geoparaprof who had fallen off the academic train into the clutches of the climbing life. They said, watch out, you don't end up like Dale Goddard. And little did they know, Dale Goddard was one of my heroes. He was like one of the only guys in America climbing 514. He was rad. I was like, hell yeah, I want to be Dale Goddard. So that didn't really dissuade me. So I spent the following year, putting everything I had into climbing. I went to Aspen. I worked in the summers as a climbing guide at Independence Pass. And at night I was bussing tables in Aspen, and I was sleeping in my truck and saving up money and just doing this glamorous climbing thing, traveling in the fall. In the winter I'd end up back east and work in a climbing gym, set routes, do competitions, try to get good. And that 1 year off somehow turned into 3 years. And the whole grad school idea kind of started to fade a little bit. And at a certain point, I realized I was into this climbing stuff really deep. I was 25, all I was doing was climbing. And I kind of started to wonder if I had maybe blown it by walking away from geology, or maybe if I could figure out some way to build something out of this love that I had for climbing. One day I snapped a finger tendon, tiny, tiny little piece of cartilage in the tiny, tiny finger, and it put me out of climbing for a few months. And it kind of precipitated a little bit of a crisis where I realized, what the heck am I doing? I had been going out every day bouldering, developing new boulders in New York with a bunch of friends, and so I decided I would just keep going out with them because I really had nothing else going on, and bring a video camera and just try to document this whole scene that was going on. At the time, bouldering wasn't really a thing. Now bouldering is this like huge aspect of climbing. It's like the coolest, youngest, funnest aspect of the sport in some ways. At the time, it wasn't a thing at all in America, and there was a very new, youthful spark to it. And I was right in the middle of it. I was living and breathing it every day, and I felt like I was in a unique position to try and tell that story to the world. So I wrote some magazine articles, and I made my first film about this little bouldering scene in New York. And I just felt like I had a vision for how to capture this and how to celebrate it and how to share it with the world. So that was the original spark behind this path that I've been on for the last 15 years of making climbing films. It wasn't a linear path. I didn't have a business plan. I just had this love for climbing, and I had a need to do something creative with it. I put out my first couple little films, which are totally homemade, totally underground. Climbers seemed to like them. And some distributors started calling and wanted to sell them, and some companies wanted to sponsor them, and I started to think, there might actually be something to this. If I get some real equipment, figure out what I'm doing, get some actual filmmaking chops, I might be able to take this somewhere. There might be some potential here. And that is when Pete and I started to reconnect, and I'll let him take it from here.
So so I also graduated from the geo department, and I realized pretty quickly that science wasn't for me. I mean, I think the biggest thing was just like, I love to tell stories and embellish and like take the facts and run with them, and that's like really frowned upon, I think, in the geology department. As Christine mentioned earlier, I took this video class here at CC, and I was like doing that as my thesis. I was like, I definitely want to do film stuff. So I moved to New York City right after CC and just wanted to get into the film scene. I took a class at the New York Film Academy, and I got in for a couple years with this group of NYU film students and or film grads and people who were just making independent films, doing exciting stuff, and I was just like absorbing all I could and working on any project I could. And one of the guys, I wanted to make my own film though. I was sort of just helping out, and I was learning how to do the gaffing and the lighting and the camera, and I wanted to do my own thing. Someone said something to me that really resonated, one of the directors. He said, you know, if you're going to make a film, do it about something you know about. Like, don't try to write about, you know, your experience as a pimp or something. Like, do something you know. And, you know, I was like listening to this, and I was seeing how Josh was starting to have this success in the climbing world. I was still climbing a bunch and talking to Josh. So I basically went to Josh for some advice, and I was like, I want to make my climbing film. And it was, my vision of climbing was really different from Josh's, which is, as he said, he was really at the cutting edge of the sport. And comes from a cinematography family. He was documenting in a really beautiful way some of the most difficult things that were being done on rock. My climbing, I had grown up in Boulder. I was sort of like a jock, and then I found climbing when I was like 13 or 14, and it was like this subculture that I didn't know existed, and I just like fell in love with it, and I dropped out of everything else in life, and it was like this world, and it was all these like crazy characters and these misfits and these freaks and people who like really like a lot of people even who I think would have been in, you know, they'd run in meth labs if they hadn't found climbing or something. And that was my thing. I loved the climbing literature and all that stuff. So I set out to make a movie, and so I came back to Colorado, and I wanted to make a movie which became Front Range Freaks. And so the first thing that I filmed was a friend of mine, Timmy O'Neill, who's like a really crazy character. I'm sure many of you are familiar with who he is. And we're walking downtown to like get some ice cream and talking, and he's like climbing up. He's like, oh, have you seen how you can climb up this building? And then he gets on top, he's yelling at people and stuff. And I was like, it was just like a light went off like that. The way a guy like Timmy, who's like climbing, infuses every aspect of his life in these like really creative ways, that's what I wanted to document. So Timmy and I went out and shot a few things for a piece that became The Urban Ape. I'm going to show a quick clip of Timmy climbing on the, this was totally spontaneous. We went to climb on Williams Village, which is the tallest building in Boulder, and it's a CU dormitory. So there's all these kids in the window, and I'll just show a quick clip of that.
Looking for my dog, actually. My dog's missing and I can't find it. Yeah, it's really absurd, but if you see it, it's a small Irish setter. A new one. How's it going, dude? Yeah, I was wondering if I could get some change from you for the Coke machine. You have like 75 cents? I gotta get in this place soon. Starting to get a little tired.
Okay. And so yeah, so I started documenting just, finding different climbers and different characters. And I'm going to show another really quick clip. This character is this tiny little climber who became like, definitely like the craziest climber I've ever filmed with. So we'll just show a quick clip of this.
And the climber's name is Biscuit.
She likes to climb on the rocks when we go rock climbing, so I just bring her along and let her run around and have fun. She's got these short little toes, they're nice and powerful, and she's got good balance. And look at her, look how skinny she is. It's all muscle. Aren't you, Biscuit? All muscle and an attitude.
Quick funny story about Biscuit. So we put Biscuit in the Banff Mountain Film Festival. It's like a 3-minute movie. And then Banff had a show in Los Angeles, and the LA Times ran a picture, because I had a great photo of Biscuit doing the chimney maneuver. And the LA Times ran the picture. And the next day, I started getting calls from like all sorts of mainstream media about, oh, they wanted to feature Biscuit the climbing dog. And then the next morning, Biscuit was on Good Morning America, and there was Regis Philbin, like, I love the show the dog clip again. I love the dog clip.
That was actually a pretty major turning point as far as, in my mind. I remember having these conversations with Pete, talking about his vision for what he thought climbing film should be, and I was just interested in showing the raddest stuff, and Pete was just interested in making something that his mom would like. That was this main test. And I remember watching the Biscuit clip and the Urban Ape clip and thinking, yeah, that's cute, that's funny, it's cute, whatever. It's not real climbing, though. And then next thing I know, he's getting all these calls from TV stations around the world, getting all these license fees, and Biscuit's blowing up. And I started to think, you know what, maybe he's onto something. There's definitely some kind of hybrid model here to be explored.
Yeah. So, okay, so after, I made this film, Front Range Freaks, and then I really wanted to go. It was kind of, I thought it was a one-off thing. It wasn't like I was gonna, I didn't think I'd ever make another climbing film after that. I went back to USC Film School, as Christine mentioned. I really wanted to get exposed to Hollywood and LA and like the big, just the big film world, and USC is like right at the heart of that. But this interesting thing was happening where my classmates were looking at what was happening with Front Range Freaks. I was selling, thousands of DVDs around the world, and people were writing little reviews of it online, and it was sort of like, this homemade video that I'd made. It was what every young filmmaker aspires to do, is to have an audience watch their videos, and it's a really hard thing to do. And so as I was at USC and seeing Hollywood, I really came to this realization that, we had this incredible niche, and we were part of this incredible small world that had so much potential. And so I came out of 2 years of school there really fired up to be like, I want to do climbing movies, I want to do adventure films, but I want to make a business out of it and take this serious, which nobody had really done before. And Josh and I were obviously talking all the time. He'd been out visiting me in LA. We'd go on climbing trips together. And so we came out of there with this business plan. We'd enlisted another friend of ours from Colorado College, Nick Rosen, who was living in New York. He was doing journalism, and we knew he was always up for a chance to get back to the mountains. And we came up with the idea for Real Rock, which was basically a platform for these films that we were making, because Josh and I would, we'd make these films. It's, especially Josh at this time, you'd spend so much time making them, and then we would just be gutted from the experience, and to then have to go out and distribute them and do all that work. So we came up with the idea for Real Rock, and my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, she had done like some music promotion in college, and so she was in charge of booking the shows so that we could go out and like really focus on telling these stories and making these films.
So the first large-scale project that we really combined all of our efforts to try and go big with was a film called King Lines. How many people have seen King Lines? Yeah. Yes. All right. This was a film starring Chris Sharma, who was at the time and still is probably the most famous climber in the world. Handsome stud of a guy, has the charisma to carry a big film. And we just put everything we had collectively into trying to go as big as we could with it. Pete really led the way as far as forming the business model and pushing the sponsorship side of it so we could have the funding that we needed to travel all over the world with Chris, to get helicopters when we needed them, to do high-end effects. I kind of led the way in being there and leading the shoots and trying to capture all this incredible stuff that he was doing, and also somewhat in the editing as far as putting it together in a really stylish way. Pete's always focused on story, trying to make these films come together in a way that anyone can relate to, with a classic kind of film school arc to it. And that helped a lot. We put everything we had into making this film, and it was really well received. We won an Emmy Award for it. We sold it to TV all over the world. It won all kinds of awards, and it definitely brought things to a whole new level and helped launch the Real Rock Tour as a viable business and as a brand in itself. So I'll play the trailer for King Lines. It's a far cry from Biscuit.
I've been living this lifestyle for about 9 years now. Just being on the road and traveling from one place to the next, finding the most beautiful climbs and
coolest spots. His whole life is spontaneous. He just floats.
He's looking, he's hiking, he's searching, and that's what the best climbers, I think, in the whole world have done. They're always looking for the new ones. He's got this amazing opportunity to do that on a global scale.
I've always been dreaming of finding the biggest, most badass line that you can imagine. The line that is just calling out to you, beckoning to be climbed. That's the king line.
So King Line's definitely put Real Rock on the map, and now we're into our 8th year of running Real Rock, and we're constantly searching for the biggest and the best stories that we can tell from the world of climbing, and also branching out into kind of crossover aspects related to climbing, but that we think can go even bigger. The last few years, the format has evolved into a series of short films, 20 to 40 minutes long, so last couple years I think we've had 4 films each year. And we're following stories for more than a year at a time. So we'll have crews out in multiple locations all around the world. This year we had shoots in Japan, Borneo, England, Morocco, Nepal, Switzerland, Yosemite, and more. And definitely the most exciting part of what we do is the actual shooting. Unfortunately, that's only about 10% of the work that goes into this whole thing. But it's the fun part. It looks the most glamorous. So let's talk about that part. A lot of this stuff starts with the relationships that we have with the climbers. We've worked with pretty much all the greatest climbers over the years, and we keep our ears to the ground, talk to all these guys and girls about what's going on, and when there's something monumental about to go down, we scramble to shoot, send a team out there and try to capture the moment, or sometimes it's a more planned situation where we know what we're trying to get, but we're just constantly communicating with the climbers, with our crews, with the companies that sponsor the film. Sometimes they give us an idea for something, and trying to make sure we don't miss anything huge. The crews that we send out, they all have to be experienced climbers themselves. They have to be able to keep up with the athletes in these vertical environments, be safe, and still get amazing footage. And it's definitely not like a Hollywood production crew. We try to send out really small, lean, mean, documentary-style crews. It's often just one main cameraman and then a second producer-director who can also shoot the B camera, sometimes a rigger. And usually that's about it for the crew. We don't want to influence the action. We just want to be nimble, keep up with the climbers, and get what we need to get to make a great film. In some cases, we take more of a commercial approach. If it's a film where we're trying to, say, paint a portrait of a character, and it's more of a situation where we're following them around and documenting their day-to-day life, or we might actually set up scenes. You know, now you're going to go visit your mom, and we're going to get to know your whole family life, and then that's a more set-up environment, a little more controlled. But in many cases, if we're trying to, say, capture the first ascent of the hardest route in the world, it's the opposite. We're there, we're at the climber's mercy, and we've spent weeks and weeks hanging on a wall, filming every single attempt, just trying to capture that one fleeting moment of success. And that can actually be really frustrating as a filmmaker, because it kind of sucks to not have control. You just want to be like, come on, man, send it. Let's go. Let's get this over with. So sometimes the commercial ones are a little more fun when we get to boss the climbers around. For me personally, I've always really enjoyed trying to push the envelope on the cinematography side, trying to get cutting-edge visuals of the cutting-edge climbs. And in order to do that, we have to pay a lot of attention to detail in the shooting process and use the latest technology to find unique angles, and also sometimes develop entirely new systems to shoot climbing with. So I'll show you the next clip, which illustrates some of the different shooting techniques that we use and I'll kind of talk a little bit through it to describe what you guys are actually seeing. This is Dean Cotter climbing in Switzerland. He has no rope. His only safety system is a base rig on his back. And this is Pete. This is a cable cam shot, a climber named Dailo Ojeda in Spain. It's a horizontal cable cam, which is used a lot in mountain bike movies and ski movies. We wanted to figure out a way to rig a vertical cable cam so that we have a camera, remote control, moving up the wall with the climber. This is Chris Sharma trying La Dura Dura, the hardest route in the world currently. We spent weeks and weeks in Spain developing this system and trying to document that climb. The idea is to have a camera in the perfect position just to the side and just above the climber all the way up a climb, moving smoothly. For aerial shots, this is the camera system known as the Cineplex. It's the most advanced stabilization system for aerials. And this is footage we shot last fall, me and Pete, of Uli Steck, a Swiss alpinist. The Cineplex allows you to get incredibly smooth, long aerial shots that there's no other way to get. And for that grand sense of scale, nothing can match it. He's climbing on the Eiger here. He's known for speed solo alpine descents. It's also good for making the audience dizzy once in a while when you want to step up a notch. And this is kind of bringing it back to basics a little bit. This is a sequence of Alex Honnold climbing a boulder problem / free solo in Bishop, just from our film last year called Honnold 3.0. And this is the more traditional approach to filming a climb, but it illustrates the importance of different angles and different shots that together tell a story. Here you see his face and the intensity. Here you see the wide shot that shows the position. This is a reaction shot, so you can feel the emotion of observers. And the close-ups. Close-ups are what make you feel how tenuous this really is. He's just got a millimeter of skin holding him up there. And if he follows, those pads probably wouldn't do anything at all at this point.
Nice job.
Thanks for your full support. I'm cut.
And the human side. So those are some of the things we look at when putting together a shoot.
Is that me? Yeah.
Well, actually, let me talk about the editing a little bit.
Yeah.
So the fun part is being out there on the shoots, like I said. And then you come home, you got 5 or 10 terabytes of footage, sit down in front of your computer, and that's when the movie really gets made. It's the editing process. I don't have a video of that process. I don't think you would want to see it. But if I did, what you would see would be pale, glassy-eyed editors slouched in front of computers, headphones on, empty coffee cups, empty Red Bull cans, once in a while other substances circulating around to help with some creative breakthroughs occasionally. Lots of pacing, lots of uploading, downloading, reviewing, debating, writing notes, me and Pete arguing on the phone, me and Pete and Nick and Zach and Brett and Alex all arguing and yelling at each other and blaming each other for being over deadline. Not much sleeping. Every summer is a blur like this, and somehow at the end of it, we so far have managed each September to come out of it with a batch of fresh new films to roll out on the tour, and that's where we are right now. So we're in relief mode now, and it feels good to be out celebrating and actually sharing the work with you guys. Going mainstream.
Yeah. Okay.
Scandy.
Cool. I think one of the cool things about Josh and my collaboration and with all the people on our team is we all really respect each other. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing, but we all have we're all really different from each other. I mean, you could probably get that, just Josh is really prepared today. So, I mean, Josh is really, he's the master he's a real artist. He's the master of cinematography. He edits something, you can just, you can look at it and say, oh, Josh Lowell edited that. I'm definitely the big idea, throw things against the wall, see what sticks, and constantly trying to think of the stories in climbing that can go broader, that people out there who don't climb are gonna latch onto. And I think Real Rock has found this very interesting niche where we are so embedded in the core world that we are almost the mainstream media. We're the first people to see these incredible characters. So we're going to show a couple clips of some characters that we've featured on Real Rock the last few years that have started on Real Rock and then really had a breakout into more mainstream. The first one is a totally extreme, sort of absurd example of this. So we film a lot in the Utah desert, out in the Canyonlands and in Indian Creek. And the group of guys out there were saying, hey, there's this guy you got to check out. He just moved out here from California, and he's crazy. Not only is he climbing, he's doing these crazy rope tricks with slack lines and all sorts of stuff. So we went out, we spent some time with him. We spent a season with him with different cameramen, and his name is Andy Lewis, also known as Sketchy Andy. And so I think in about a 5-month or a 6-month trajectory, he went from well, actually it's a full circle now that I think about it. He went from sleeping in the dirt in Moab to starring in the Real Rock film to starring in the Super Bowl halftime with Madonna, to being spoofed by Andy Samberg on Saturday Night Live, to telling Madonna to shove it and sleeping in the dirt in Moab. Actually, I forgot about that last thing. So we'll show that. We're going to show a quick trajectory of that. This is a clip from one of our films, and then the Super Bowl thing, and then. Yeah.
Well, the highline backflip has been a trick that was previously conceived as impossible in the world of slacklining. Doing a huge dynamic movement and trying to come back down on the line is soul-grippingly terrifying. The more you're afraid, the worse the backflip is going to be.
Doing a backflip on a highline, nobody's even thinking about that sort of stuff. And here Andy is stepping up and actually trying it. He's willing to do things he's not sure he can do.
A couple months later, Super Bowl.
Followed by Saturday Night Live.
Isn't that a little painful, especially on one's genitals?
Oh yeah, it's officially the worst, Pierce, since my entire body weight landing on a metal wire over and over and over. I'm basically a Ken doll down there, but I do it for the art. Yay!
There's absolutely no padding whatsoever.
Well, there is some padding. I have as much hair down there as I do up here. My fro down below, my below fro, the art!
The man is a genius.
So being featured in Real Rock, blessing or curse, I'm not sure.
That's fine. I hadn't seen that clip. Okay, and then another guy is, who I'm sure a lot of you in here know. He is one of my favorite, I think one of all of our, a really special person, one of our favorite people that we've met. And you know, he was hanging out in Yosemite, this like lanky teenager, and you know, the Yosemite crew was saying, you know, we spent a lot of time in Yosemite. It's kind of probably our home away from home. And, you know, started meeting this guy, and he was starting to do these soloing big granite cliffs in Yosemite without a rope, you know, like in the morning, and not even telling anyone about it. He's like, oh, it's no big deal. I don't know why you guys care what I'm doing and stuff. And then, so we started filming him. This is Alex Honnold. And then he did he free-soloed the northwest face of Half Dome without a rope in about 2 hours, which was, I think is still largely considered, you know, one of the great achievements in, I mean, probably any sport, but definitely in the climbing world. So we're going to show a quick clip about that and then talk a little more about Alex.
This is an excerpt from the first film that Pete made about Alex called Alone on the Wall.
Climbing Half Dome took me 2 hours and 50 minutes, and it's hard to be completely focused and completely on your game for that long. Basically, when I'm soloing, normally I have almost like a mental armor. You can say I'm in the zone. I have something that's, let's say, protecting my head from thinking too much. And for whatever reason on Half Dome, I ran out of whatever armor I had. Found myself like 1,800 feet off the ground. I was like, what am I doing up here? Why am I doing it? You know, just all the questions all of a sudden entered my mind. I think doubt is probably the biggest danger in soloing. Because basically as soon as you start to hesitate, then you're screwed.
Just a second, freaking out actually.
I just had this like mini nervous breakdown. I never had anything quite like that happen before.
Just come back if you're not feeling it.
Well, that's the thing is I'm like...
Nothing really happened. It just all happened inside my head while I stood there for a few minutes. At some point in there, I just dealt with whatever was going on and then just climbed it. Yeah, it was cool to like escape my little prison.
I haven't had a moment of panic like that in a really long time. I was like...
Once I made that move and was suddenly into the easier terrain, it was fantastic. And I just charged the summit.
Just really quick, I want to just tell you a quick story about that. So when he actually first soloed Half Dome, he went up there by himself and he just did it. And I talked to him afterwards. There were no cameras, there was no one there. He just woke up in the morning, was like, I'm ready to do this. He went and did it. And he told me that story that basically he tells there. We went back and filmed it with him, and we filmed different sections of the climb. The story he's talking about there actually happened in just slightly above the ledge that he was standing on. And so when we went back to film this with him, you know, usually people just kind of hand over hand across that ledge, and he's like, oh, I'll just walk out there backwards and face out. And we sort of drew that. We had this story about the climb that was this amazing story, and then we had this little, very subtle moment. If you saw the raw footage, you'd be like, this very subtle moment in the thing, and we combined those to capture the spirit of his adventure that he had up there. So it wasn't as harrowing filming it as I think it sort of looks like or it feels like it was when you watch the full film.
I think that's the embellishment you were talking about before. Not
That
so
would-
good in science, but
yeah,
key
that
for
wouldn't go so
storytelling.
well in yeah. And so Honnold's been on this amazing journey, and it's sort of, you know, it's really expanded our journey as well. After that piece, you know, a producer from 60 Minutes saw that piece, and they wanted to do a piece on Alex Honnold, and so they came and talked to us, and basically we produced and shot a 60 Minutes piece with him by the same name, Alone on the Wall, and then that just got seen really widely, and it got nominated for some news Emmys, and then Alex has really become this, much different than Sketchy Andy, where it was sort of like this, like, whoosh. Alex has just become this, this personality, almost like a
icon.
This icon that's transcending the sport. And you know, the neat thing, our relationship with Alex, you know, he's a good friend of ours. He trusts us. We trust him. So as he does all these things, you know, we're sort of the team that films it, and we're sort of the, you know, I think I think he did one project without us, and it was like things went a little bit haywire, and so we, you know, sort of this whole other branch of what we do is with these athletes as they go on to do commercials and other things. You know, we're there filming them and sort of overseeing the projects. So the last film we did with Alex, Honnold 3.0, which you saw a clip from earlier, we did a little montage of Alex's journey from the first film, Alone on the Wall, to there, which we were going to show just as a nice little summary of his trajectory, starting with this first Real Rock film.
PBR. Beer is essential for interviews, just a little tip. Loosens up the subject.
After Half Dome, Alex blew up.
It's the story of Alex Honnold. He's a 26-year-old rock climber from Sacramento, California. We first heard about him in a movie called Alone on the Wall, a harrowing account of one of his most extraordinary feats.
Dude, really? This is crazy.
We watched him on a video monitor from half a mile away.
Ever since, a lot of things have definitely changed. It was crazy. He was everywhere.
My boyfriend and I were going on vacation, so I used my city thank you.
My name is Alex Honnold. Alex Honnold was my name, bitch.
Alex?
Have you heard of Alex Honnold?
Alex.
Yes.
So the view of this.
How's the film shoot going? Dude, it's amazing. This is my life. Thanks for coming and checking it out with me.
Everyone wanted a piece of the new Honnold.
And we're doing a project right now with Alex with the National Geographic Channel that is a big live event that we've been working on that was announced recently. And this is sort of, it's I think the biggest project that the channel has ever done. And this is really like just a big new direction and big project that for us that still has a lot of unknowns. So stay tuned for that, and hopefully in the next few months. It's been a shifting project.
You didn't want to say what it is at all?
I don't know. I just got really weird about that. Sorry.
It was announced in the Hollywood Reporter, so it's not that secret. It's going to be a live TV broadcast of Alex climbing a skyscraper without a rope. So it'll be on a big network, and it'll be pretty exciting in a whole different realm for him, for us, for everyone involved. Just to wrap things up, I hope you guys enjoyed the clips and a little bit of the concepts of what we do. And I mean, a big part of the process of making these films or working on a commercial project or any of these projects that we do, it's a very immersive, balls to the wall experience for a short period of time. We work super hard. We deliver a project or launch, a film, hopefully take a few days to recover, and then jump into the next project. Does that sound familiar to anybody? It's pretty much the block plan. We're still living it 20 years later. Everything we've done has been to avoid having to get off the block plan and live like a regular person. And so we're pretty proud of the fact that we've managed to figure out a way to do that. And it does seem like there's something really special about CC, about the students that are here, the students that are originally attracted to CC, and also the training here, the training of the block plan and the training of having a creative, open mind, choosing your own adventure. And just in our little world of people that are making outdoor and adventure films, there's a ton of CC people. You guys might not realize this, but a lot of the people we work with actually came through here. So Pete mentioned before, Nick Rosen graduated in '97 with Pete, who's his partner in running Sender Films in Boulder and works closely with us on all these projects. Another guy, Rob Frost, who graduated in '94 with me, who's one of the cameramen, rugged cameramen who goes all over the world, who shoots a lot of stuff with us. Alex Lowther from '05 is working with me in New York at Big Up as a producer and an editor. Renan Ozturk, I think he was '04. He's become really well-known cinematographer. He's a North Face sponsored athlete, amazing alpinist, and has really gotten noticed for creating these intense alpine climbing films. He did a film for us that was on our tour last year called The Shark's Fin, about a climb in the Himalaya that he did, really intense. There's another guy, Nick Wagner, I'm not sure what year he was, more recent, who runs Sweetgrass Productions. They have their new film Valhalla ski movie that's just launching now, doing a tour. Another guy, Travis Rummel, more recent as well, I don't know what year, but pretty recent graduate, who has a company called Felt Soul Media. They make fly fishing films, and they're working on a film now about dam removal, which is a really big project sponsored by Patagonia that's actually really fascinating. Another good example of someone, you wouldn't think fly fishing films would be a big market necessarily, but it's something he was passionate about. He put all his effort into making these films, and it led to this much broader thing with an environmental aspect that's going to probably make a big splash when that comes out soon. I think somebody mentioned another CC grad who's now directing the Spider-Man movies, Mark Webb, coming through in a time when there was no film program and somehow ending up there is a pretty remarkable feat. So I think there's something special in the air here at CC.
Yeah, when there was no film program here and I took my video class, there was one geek hanging out it was downtown in the film lab, like all the time, and he was like the only guy at CC who was into film, and his name was Mark Webb, and then he went on to do music videos, and then he did like 500 Days of Summer, and now he's like the hottest director in Hollywood. He did Spider-Man, and now he's doing Spider-Man 2 and 3 and stuff.
And besides the actual filmmakers, a lot of the athletes that we work with have come through CC as well. There's Will Gadd, who's an amazing ice climber that we featured in the 2011 Real Rock Tour. Kate Rutherford, a great climber, Patagonia-sponsored climber who graduated relatively recently. Hillary O'Neill, who skied down Mount Everest, is another CC grad. So the list goes on, and even before we graduated, there was already a big list. I mentioned Dale Goddard and Ed Webster and Steve Hong. I mean, a lot of climbers and incredible creative people have come through here. This past summer, I had an intern from class of 2014 working with me, Cammie Hess, who's right up here. She did a great job working with us in New York. And we're actually going to be talking with the internship people here at CC and trying to set up a little bit of a more formal relationship so that we can pull from this pool of motivated, smart people. And if any of you guys are interested in working with us, give us a shout. And just don't think you're going to get to go on the cool shoots. You got to pay your dues first. So, what do you want to say?
Yeah, I just was going to finish with a couple potential thoughts. Like lesson. I don't know. Just some things that like we were kind of brainstorming last night. And
some of the stuff we've learned, I guess.
Yeah, some of the stuff that like maybe we would say, maybe think about. I don't know. I don't want to make it too much like this.
It's not commencement, but you know.
Exactly. So I think one is just like, I think you guys get this pretty clearly. Like Josh and I had no idea what we were doing at CC, and it was actually years, it's kind of 4 or 5 years after we graduated that this all started to coalesce and stuff. And we still have no idea what we're going to do next. And I think that's like one of my favorite things about this, but it's also it somewhat takes a certain personality, I think. I mean, we could, we talked about launching a another Real Rock tour that's in the spring, but it's a different genre, or investing in an app, or like making a crazy feature film about this thing or that thing. I mean, it really is choose your own adventure, and so I think if that, that's something that appeals to some people, and it doesn't to other people. Actually, my older brother works in the film industry in LA, and he has like a great job as a 3D effects artist, and he I could never do what he does, and he could never do what I do, and and he's very successful and stuff. So I just think it's like,
it's scary to have to reinvent the wheel every year, but it can also be invigorating. And if you like the thrill of that, you got to go for it. If you just want the security of punching the clock, this is not the way to do it.
Yeah. So, okay, the second thing, this is like super cheesy. I think we've already said this, but like following your passion. I think the thing about that is, like everyone says, like make it about the journey, not about the destination, right? And like if you're doing something that like you're passionate about, I don't think Josh and I ever thought we would actually make real money when we started. There was no business. We didn't start with a business model and then build into that. We were just like, how do we keep this lifestyle going as long as possible? Now we each have 2 kids, we're raising families, and we're still keeping this lifestyle going. I think if it is your passion, if it's something you actually love to do, like if you want to go out, you have 2 hours on a Saturday afternoon, you want to go look at a video edit or think about some idea, like that's a good, as you get older, like that's a good thing in life. And a lot of friends, a lot of really successful people too, aren't following their passion. And I think, I think
if you have something you love, consider yourself fortunate and embrace it and follow it as much as you can. Not everyone does. So if you have something, you got to live it.
Yeah. And then I think my biggest thing is find your partners, find the right collaborators. And this is like obviously with Josh and Nick and Alex and all the people we work with, but also with the athletes. And they've been athletes who, I mean, obviously the stuff we're doing is really dangerous. This is, really high stakes. There's people contact us all the time. Oh, I'm going to go free solo this thing. I'm the next Alex Honnold. And we're like, yeah, that's not, that's not what we're looking for. And I think, find your partners, find the people. And it's like, it's hard at first. I mean, Josh mentioned we debate. You can tell Josh and I are really different personalities. Like, we debate a lot, but we really respect each other. And in the end, it's like when you really get down 5 years into something or 10 years into something, it's so much more fun having people you like surrounding you, doing it with you, than trying to be the one-man show. And definitely the whole is so much greater than the sum of the parts. I mean, I wish there was like a equation for that, but it's ridiculous. I mean, if you just take all of us as individuals and what we could do, and then all of us.
1 + 1 = 3.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's the equation.
That's actually a really hard lesson to learn, though, especially in creative fields. Creative people tend to imagine themselves as hermits in a cabin, being geniuses and putting something out to the world and being lauded for it. And that's how I started out with my films, was just like alone in a basement trying to see what I could come up with and hoping people would like it. And it's a hard lesson to learn how to collaborate on creative things, but there's no way we could have gotten where we've gotten without figuring out a way to work together, to bring more people in, to figure out what I'm bad at, I need somebody else who's good at to bring to the table, how to criticize each other's work, how to take feedback constructively, and keep going forward. And that's been a huge lesson for me to learn along the way. Pete's always had a great attitude about that, and that's the only reason why we've succeeded. And I think these days, it's pretty impossible to do much that's going to do well by yourself. So find people that you want to work with.
Yeah, because you're also competing against people who are working as big groups in most fields now. So it's hard to do. And then I think the last thing is just, and Josh really hit on this, that it is really hard work. And just, I think it's clear that trying to build your own business, start your own thing, do your own thing, it's harder work than just finding a job, like a really good job. But maybe it doesn't feel as much like work when you're doing it. And on that note, when you find your partner, your future husband or wife, they're going to think it's like really cool that you're like starting your own business when you meet. Oh, he's
very romantic. He travels all the time.
He's such a go-getter. And 15 years later, they're going to be like, what the hell?
I never see you. Make sure you have an independent spouse.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's what we've got. So I'd love to take questions. Thank you, everybody.